Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you everyone for turning up for this particular interview. Really, yeah, it's my privilege and honor to be interviewing Monique Grimes today. Monique jumped into the Authentic Relationship System program around June, I think it was last year. So it's
Hmm.
it's been a while,
Yeah.
but and I can't believe it's all gone so quickly. But her, her experience was a really challenging one, and I'll let her just explain it in a moment. But I know when she came to me, she was in a very difficult place, and I really wanted to take the time to go through this interview because I know that a lot of people out there are going to be facing similar challenges to Monique in terms of what was going on with her husband and the infidelity and all of that sort of stuff, and really wanted to just provide people with a sense of inspiration more than anything that transformation is real and it can shift. But I think it's also important to be very real about all this. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that's just a bit of fluff and how you can shift everything overnight and everything's wonderful, magical, happily ever after. But I think it's about actually acknowledging that even when things start to improve, there's always some work ahead and things like that. So I think so. Thank you for everyone for showing up today. I really appreciate it, and I know you're going to get a lot out of this interview. So what I might do is just pass over to Monique, and just maybe you can introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit more about kind of where you were at, at the point in which you joined up in the program, and just what some of the challenges were going on in your marriage, and yeah, just where you were at also mentally and emotionally, and we'll go from there.
Yes. When I had called, we were already separated. But I'm gonna go back a little bit from there. Um, why I actually initiated the separation, and husband, Michael had been he had created this beautiful school and was working a lot, and I had two little ones at the time in my own job at home. And there was a lot of stress going on in our marriage, and to the point where I didn't feel safe. And um,
And that's a level of emotional safety you're
yeah,
meaning? Yeah.
well, yes,
Or yeah.
definitely emotional safety. And so he actually got to the point where they asked him to step down from his job. So I was thinking I was leaving during that period of our marriage, and then that was put into our laps, and so I stayed. And we tried to work it out. We were going through cycles of being really great, and then I would close off, not feeling safe again, and just shutting down. And we were going through that cycle for months. And I finally just said, I need to separate myself because I'm not healing in this space. Um, he took it very hard. And I it was a tough decision because we had two kids, but I
Mm.
just knew it wasn't it we just kept going through cycles. So I ended up moving out a couple streets down, and started to do marriage counseling. And um, it was definitely, like you had pointed out, where I wanted to go, and he was very reluctant of going at
Mm.
first. So I had a friend kind of plant a seed and have him find someone that he was willing to go to. And we started going, but it was definitely very finger pointing. He was feeling not great about himself at the end, and I felt good because it was a safe space for me to open up,
Mm.
but it just wasn't good for our marriage. If we kept that route, we definitely would have gone through a divorce. Um, but luckily, I mean, it's a blessing, but COVID hit and we stopped doing marriage counseling. And about a year or two had gone by, and I was still holding on to anger towards him of
Mm.
how he could have treated me that way. If you love someone, just how could you do that to someone?
Mm.
And so it got to the point where I felt we weren't moving anywhere forward with our relationship. And so we kind of had the conversation of divorce. And he actually, well, I brought it up and he put in, I don't want to say it, but it felt like it was a slap in the face of I've been seeing someone for the last 8 months.
Mm.
And it was very like a kick in the gut, like what that's, in the back of my head, well, that's why he wasn't trying.
Mm.
Um, and um, and it kicked me into healing myself. And so I was kind of scrambling for a moment on what to do. And I tried one relationship coach down here. It didn't feel right. And then that's when I stumbled upon you. And the one thing that really jumped out to me was that you were the one who picked people to work with. And I think that spoke volumes to me. It just wasn't anyone who was
Mm.
coming through the door. It was people who you fit with and who were willing to work on themselves.
Mm.
And that just spoke volumes. And that's kind of what brought me into this program.
Tell me, like, when you obviously found out that he'd been seeing someone for 8 months, and you mentioned that you kicked you into gear in terms of healing yourself. What do you think got you to a place where you felt like you were ready to do the inner work? Because when you find out that your husband's been cheating on you, the natural
Mm-hmm.
reaction in those situations would not necessarily be, oh, okay, well, I need to work on myself. It's,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell's going on here? How can I try and get him back? This other woman, there's often, anger that comes about it, about that sort of,
Mm-hmm.
when that sort of behavior is going on. So what do you think was, I guess, at the core of it in terms of, or why do you think your mindset was at a place you were saying, all right, well, I need to actually work on me?
Um, Truthfully, I did have those emotions. I did go through, I'm losing him. Um, I'm going to lose my children to another woman.
Mm.
You have that chaos through your head. But at the core of it, I wanted to be, no matter what happened, the best me I could be for my children,
Mm.
and better myself in the long run, no matter what had happened between the two of us.
Mm.
I think that is a gift that I can give my kids and that I could give to myself. Um, I Yeah, because I just kept thinking, well, yeah, because who knows what's going to happen. I mean, even though we are together again, who knows what's going to happen in the long run. And I wanted to have those tools and that understanding of having a beautiful relationship for myself
Yeah.
and for my kids.
Mm. No, absolutely, it's beautiful, and it's, as I said, it's not an easy place to get to.
It's
But
not.
the fact that you had the courage to want to do that part of it, because it's very natural in those moments to want to say, look, he's the one at fault, he's the one that's done this. Why on earth should I have to, work on myself with all of this stuff when he's the one that's off doing these things? And it'd be very normal to feel that way. I can completely understand that, but I think it's great that you sort of took that mindset of, look, I actually want to grow me regardless of what kind of happens in terms of our marriage. So no, it's a beautiful mindset. So once you once you sort of jumped into the program and so on, how did things unfold for you as far as, can you maybe give people a bit of an insight into just how the journey unfolded for you? Not necessarily in terms of what you learned and things like that in the program, but more around the actual circumstances with your marriage, and what point did you start seeing things starting to shift a little bit?
Well, in the very beginning, I definitely had sleepless nights. Your head goes into a tizzy, and that takes a long time to settle. Um, months of having sleepless nights, and what am I doing? And this isn't going to work. And taking a step back in the morning and having that space for me, knowing to change that mentality, to feel that I was worthy of having love. And that was a huge part of me knowing that I was worth it. And that was what I had to work on first. That I was really worthy of having love, and waking up and telling myself that, and taking the time to go on walks and to connect with people and to find myself again. I think as a mother, you do lose yourself, and I think it's a gift to find yourself again. And I had that space, as tough as it was, not having my kids here all the time. I had to find the beauty in that and work on myself, and know that I was worth.
Were those feelings of that kind of lack of I guess self-worth and the worthiness of love, was that something that you'd been dealing with for a number of years, or was it something that you weren't necessarily aware of but just came to light more as a result of what was going on in the marriage?
I think it came about going through the program. I definitely felt it here and there, going through those teenage years and those years of being in the 20s and trying to find yourself through there. I feel like the marriage itself broke me down to where I didn't feel like I was worthy of love, and that was a part that I had to fix first.
Absolutely. Did you, one of the things that I always admired about you is how diligent you were with a lot of the work, and there was a lot of consistency there. Were there times where it just was like, oh man, this is just too much, I can't do this anymore, or did you feel like it was just you'd hit that tipping point, which is no matter what, no matter how hard it gets, I've got to do this, I've got to put the work in and really make sure that I'm doing that healing on myself? Because it is something that I observe from time to time with individuals where it gets a little bit scary, or some uncomfortable things come up, and our natural kind of fight or flight response kicks in, or fight, flight, or freeze, and that flight response does take over sometimes, and it's easy to to sort of get away from all of that because it all feels a bit hard. And that's understandable as well. Oh, sorry, I think we just had a... Sorry, you there, Monique?
Sorry about that. On technology.
Yeah, that's right. That's all right. Sometimes there's a little bit of internet connectivity, but I just lost my train of thought in terms of what I was.
We were starting on finding it difficult.
That's right. Running away in fight or flight or freeze mode.
Well, we froze.
Yes,
for a moment.
exactly.
But now we're back into it. But yeah, I definitely feel like it had been so long as a mom since I had worked on me. I was fighting to find myself again. It was difficult when I had the kids to find that quiet space. But when they were in bed, I went in and I, put the earphones in and listened to the lesson, and I sat and reflected and wrote in my journal, and reflected in my journal. And yeah, I think because I finally had that space for myself, I fought for myself.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. And can you maybe talk through some of the shifts that you started to experience as you were doing a lot of this inner work on yourself? What was it that was kind of going on for you, and what were some of the shifts that were occurring? Because I think sometimes when people embark on a journey, or they even think about personal growth, not able to quite understand what that feels like and what sort of experiences you can have. And maybe people's experiences might just be through traditional counseling and so on, which is a lot of the time quite passive, and you sit there and you talk about your problems and that's about it. So what were some of the shifts that were kind of occurring for you, did you find?
Well, a big shift was definitely finding that time for myself. I think that was the first and foremost shift that I had. We'll try it again.
Yeah, I don't know if sometimes
Everything just dropped.
yeah, I don't know, it's
why.
odd. Not exactly sure what's happening. I think sometimes the internet connections can play up, or
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
know if you're
It just,
close
my
to your
computer all of a
router.
sudden just dropped everything. So
Yeah.
I just rebooted it, and
Okay, that's okay.
um,
We'll see how we go. Um,
um,
yeah, so in terms of the shifts you were talking about, as far as like, you actually just giving yourself the time, um, what other sort of shifts did you sort of experience?
um, well, I think, once I went through that femininity spot of the course,
Mm-hmm.
really diving in, and doing the work with those, I think, helped as well. I started doing like the physical part of it, because I hadn't done any physical work in a long time, and I missed that. Um, and then going into the mental part and the emotional part and the physical, or sorry, the spiritual part. And I feel like once I really delved into those, things really started moving. I started shedding my walls, and coming more in tune with my own self. Yeah, I was starting to see shifts on where, I was always like a go with the flow type of person, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But like, taking your bit of advice on, just seeing if you're going to get a parking spot for the day, and the parking spot would just be there. And then, it was, and I'd go out and go shopping, and there just happened to be a huge sale at a store that I wanted to go into, and just happened to be their first day of 50% off the whole store. I was like, okay. And I hadn't bought myself stuff in years. There was just things that just started popping up, and I was more open to it rather than being closed off and worried or upset about things. I think the more that I was shedding those negative emotions and more living in the love and joy, more things started being pulled in my direction.
Yeah.
If you can, I guess if I could say it that way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And with some of these shifts that started occurring for you, can you talk us through a little bit about how things unfolded with you and your husband over the subsequent months? Because I think it was around, June you started working with me, and then If
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was around sort of November-ish that things started to, he started to shift a little bit. So can you maybe talk us through some of that and what's been going, what happened through the process there?
Mm-hmm. Um, well, there was, even though we were separated and not married, I still um, did some of the things that were in the course as if we were married.
Mm.
I went over and I, found something to thank him for and
Mm.
showed him gratitude for something. I still wanted him to feel needed for many people put into practice because I felt like I would want those in a relationship, no matter if it was with him or with someone else. Um, and so I just, and um, not not thinking of getting anything in return, just kind of giving since I was filling myself up.
Mm.
And it came to the point where um, I really felt like if we weren't going to work out, I was going to be okay, and that I wanted him to be happy with whomever it was going to be. And I actually, I never met the other woman, but I felt love for her and for him. And um, we had Christmas coming up, and I was coming over to just deliver the gifts for the kids, so because they were going to have Christmas at his house, and I had just come home from a party and had met someone that could have been a possibility and was, open to it, and he wanted to go on a hike with all the kids in a couple weeks, and I said sure. And um, Michael and I were having great conversation. The following day was Christmas, and I came over again and had Christmas with the kids and him, and we were laughing, and it was a lot of fun. And I had to go do some errands as well as meet up with other friends, and actually that's when he shifted. He told me, and he said he just felt like I shouldn't have left. Um, and um, and yeah, it started the conversation of let's try again.
Mm. I mean, it's an incredible shift. I mean, and not just the shift, but for you to get to a place where you're almost sending love out to this other person, that's huge, because you'd be well within your right to be like, hell no, get the hell away from me, I don't want you in my life at all, ever, please.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you were able to put that energy out there, and I think it's really important to remember for all of us, is that the more love that we're actually able to put out, the more we're going to get it back in some capacity. And that's just the way it works. And I think it's very easy to get stuck in your head in these situations. And as I said, understandably so, because you're going to be in a lot of pain. So,
Mm-hmm.
and when we're in
It's
pain,
difficult,
it is.
for
It
sure.
is very, very tough. And but I don't confess to be an expert in terms of like living it all the time, 24/7. But I do
Mm-hmm.
know that even if you can make a 10% shift or a 20% shift, that can lead to giant strides in the long run. So no, I think it's amazing what you did, and yeah, it's really, really remarkable stuff. So, you know.
Well, and it's really pretty to like actually you feel the shifts once you start opening yourself with them.
Right.
I know. I want to say it was one of the days we had an emotional clearing, and I had some stuff left over, and like did some yoga and did some other things to help clear it out, and then went on a incredibly long walk, and then it just started pouring, and it just you know, and it was just, that was it, like there was my shift. I've like moved into this new, you know, next phase, and it just is beautiful when you're open to stuff that's going on around you.
Yeah, and it's almost just like shedding an old skin in a way, isn't it? And the rebirth, effectively, because that's really what it is. It's a lot of us, the hardest part is letting go of an old identity. But when we can actually recognize that a new identity can be created in any moment, that's when a lot of the you know, the real magic can start to occur. So, no, amazing stuff. Really, really beautiful. So Michael basically says, look, he realizes, he feels like he's made a mistake. How did things sort of unfold at that point?
Slowly, tiptoeing. We definitely talked some. He said that he wanted to end it with the other girl, and, you know, give her respect before starting anything with me, and I totally agreed. So it was a week or two after that he ended it with her. And that was a little bit of a difficult phase. She had reached out to me a couple times in the middle of the night, and she was spiraling. And I kind of told Michael, you know, it was your guys' relationship. You guys are, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just going to let you know that she's been reaching out to me. And so he had to end a relationship before starting another one again. And I definitely gave him that space to do it. And to have him take his time with things, because he mourned for a little bit of it, understandably. And yeah, and then once we came back together, we definitely talked about how we didn't want to have the relationship we had before, and what each other are going to need now, and just kind of slowly been building new foundations within our relationship and trying to do things differently. And, you know, there has been times where we fall back into an old pattern, and having to come back and like even with just me, and like I feel like I'm going back into shutting down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. And so just taking the space to work through what it is that was really coming up. Because there was still parts of me being jealous of him seeing someone else. Just like little trinkets that the girls had gotten from her were from her, like through the house still, and that would trigger me. But still knowing that I am a work in progress, and that things take time, and to be gentle with myself, and just to keep working, because I don't want to feel like this the rest of my life.
Yeah. And I think it's a really important point, because, you know, when people are going through, you know, what you've had to go through, the immediate reaction a lot of the time is, I want to save this marriage. That's all I care. I've got to save the marriage, got to have it back. Because whenever something is taken away from us, we don't want to lose that thing, so we're trying to cling on for dear life. And that's, once again, a very natural reaction. The problem is, though, is that even if the other person was to come back, or the marriage started working again, if you haven't done the internal work, your fears and your insecurities and all of that stuff are going to be taken to even a higher level than what it was beforehand, which sounds strange because it's like, hang on, he's come back, what's going on here? But it really does. And you know, I know you'll back me up on this one, because it creates such intensity. I've seen lots of people over the years who've had this very experience. Someone comes back and it actually creates even more fear and more insecurity when they're in it. So that's why, and just for everyone watching, it's so important to do that inner healing. You know, really important to do that healing, because as you heal, then in a situation where the husband comes back, or you know, things start to work out, your own insecurities won't take over and sabotage things. And also, you know, it's important for them to do their own individual work as well. So no, it's amazing, really amazing.
Yeah, and even different things will come up within the marriage that I didn't know I needed to work on.
That's
and
right.
So now having those skills and understanding how to work on myself is just is a gift in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's beautiful. And how's it how's this kind of whole process impacted your relationship with your kids?
It's been actually really great. I Even though I'm done with the program, I'm not done.
No.
I go back, and I love playing you in the car for them, because it's not coming from mom.
Right.
But like when things start pulled in from them, or if they're just in a funky mood, I know one of my oldest one feels like the world is just awful, and it's because how she's feeling inside. And I want her to understand, like, once you're feeling amazing and just these beautiful things start happening, and not to blame the outside, but to look within.
That's right. I mean, we create our own reality, you know, so if you can shift from within. And hey, nothing less than, if for nothing else, a nice little New Zealand accent can kind of shift an emotional state as well.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Very good. So, so talk us through a little bit about just how things have. Actually, before I ask you this question, I know there was that period where, you know, you and Michael were just quite had differing opinions as far as like politically and all of that sort of stuff as well.
We still do.
Still do, yeah.
But
So how have you managed that? Because I know, like in America, you know, the political side of things is so intense and so polarizing. It's such a different world to what we experience in New Zealand. So, I mean, how do you manage that? Because it might seem like it's unrelated, but it's actually, you know, these are the things that can cause relationships to spiral out of control. So how have you sort of managed a lot of that, and also your own emotional state? Because there are easily things that I'm sure he'll say which will trigger you like crazy, and vice versa.
It's taken some work, but I definitely I've had to take a step back, knowing when things like that are brought up, it's not because of my viewpoint or anything. I know it's just it's his path that he's gonna have to work with and deal with. But I definitely, when we have those moments, just either whether it is him needing to divulge in whatever it is he's thinking about at that moment, maybe giving him that, or possibly it is sometimes he's wanting to feel that connection with the political aspect, and I can give it to him with him just understanding his point of view. But it was funny that the last time he had brought it up, we were having an amazing weekend together. It was just the two of us. which we hadn't done since pre-children. And so it was amazing just to have a weekend to ourselves. And like a couple hours before we were leaving, he had brought it up. And it was interesting because I want to say the week before I was in one of your Q&As, and it was about how our head likes to sabotage us. And just knowing that, I was kind of able to take it with a grain of salt and not let it really impact like my joy and my fun within the weekend that we had. And I kind of said my little part as gently as I could, and then just kind of left it. Because I just feel it's something that he's going to have to work through. But just knowing what I know now, it definitely doesn't affect me as much as it would have prior to.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Because it's one of the most challenging things when we've got opinions that are divided, in terms of, him feeling one thing and you feeling another thing, or, even for me and Div or whatever, if we've got differing opinions, it's very easy for that to escalate. And the quicker that we're actually better, or quicker that we're able to understand and appreciate and accept where someone's coming from, and trust that it's not that they don't love us, or that they're taking love away from us, or it's just that they've got a different opinion, that their intention is in a good place, then I think what that does is it just allows us to ensure that we can have some healthy dialogue, because that is important. It's important to have differing views. I'm a huge fan of that. I think the more that we're actually able to learn, understand each other, then we can learn from each other and grow and become the best versions of ourselves, and our partners can then be used as teachers for ourselves as well. So and
like you said, I feel like through this course, I feel like I've become my own psychologist in a way, and understand where other people are coming from.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I suspect, I know that will end up helping you in lots of areas of your life, not just in your marriage. And I think that's the beauty of all of this internal work. It can impact everywhere in such a beautiful way. And I think, it's beautiful that you're impacting your kids, because that's where the real transformation lies. That's shifting the next generation. That's such a wonderful thing that you're doing. It's really beautiful to see.
Well, and interesting, and it's even a pull for like friends who are going through similar situations.
Right. Lovely.
Yeah.
So, what is everyday life like for you now with regards to both the marriage and also, within yourself?
Marriage, we're moving along. We definitely have our bumps still, but I love our bumps. I feel like they bring us together stronger than we were before.
Beautiful.
And I have that mentality, if for some reason it doesn't work out and we're not meant to be, I feel like I'm in the space to always show him love, with myself, I'm just happy that I have the tools that I have in order to keep moving through and shedding layers that need to be shed.
Beautiful.
I feel like work is my next little bubble that I'd like to work on.
No, it's awesome. It's lovely to see these shifts, and I think, as I said, I've always admired your effort and your intent with all of this, because there's just been consistency and a genuine desire to want to grow, and I think that's probably one of the hardest things for a lot of people. And even when I was younger and stuff, it was also a very hard thing to just kind of want to continue to do the work, because you feel like you're doing it, and then something comes in, slaps you across the face, and you're like, like, when's it gonna
It's
shift?
also scary
Yeah.
because you don't know who is still going to who's still going to be with you
Yeah.
on your journey.
Exactly.
And I know not all of my friends are gung ho about us getting back together, but there's some friends that think it's an incredible story that we have come back together.
It is amazing. It is amazing. How do you manage those people that aren't a fan?
I don't bring it up just because there's no point in delving into the negativity. Or I'll say a piece or two and then just kind of leave it at that. But it is one thing that is difficult is my parents are not quite there yet with our relationship. I know my dad is definitely walls up still. Like you hurt my daughter.
Sure, I can understand that.
And so that will take some time to repair. But I just want them to know that I have the tools to help myself and that I'm always going to be okay. And I think that is what has calmed it a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the most beautiful places you can get to is just a knowing that you're going to be okay no matter what. And I think when people get to that place, life becomes more of a dance and more of a flow rather than it being this constant battle, where you're kind of pushing shit uphill, so to speak. It's so much more enjoyable and so much more relaxing, and good things are bestowed upon you when you do open yourself up to all of this stuff. And that's why everything that I teach and everything that I'm so passionate about, it works if you embrace it, because I see it time and time again with individuals like you where you're actually able to create massive shifts, and universe, God, whatever, it starts to respond when you start to open yourself up.
It's really beautiful when it does.
It does.
And you're in tune with it, and just I don't know, it's so cool.
So I guess my last question would be, for anyone who's kind of, I guess, sitting on the fence or, a little bit apprehensive or a little bit scared or whatever in terms of jumping into a program like this, what would you kind of say to them?
That they're worth it. That they are worth every penny that they've put in. That they're worth it for the world. They're worth it for their children, and that they deserve love as much as anyone else. I think it's the world cannot use enough love. I think the more we can put into it, the more we get out of it, and putting love into ourselves starts first. We start there first.
Beautiful. No, I love that. That's wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Monique. I think I know a lot of people would have got lots out of today's interview and gained a lot of inspiration from a pretty dire situation to now where you are at now, where it's just you can see the radiance. You've got a beautiful energy about you, and things are just flowing really nicely. And I think what you rightly point out is that there are always going to be those bumps. Like I think there's something wrong in a relationship if you don't have bumps from time to time.
And how boring would it be?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. We need those challenging times, because what they do is actually help us to develop and grow. Because I always say that a relationship and our intimate partner is our greatest teacher. And so the more that we can actually learn from them, fortunately or unfortunately, it comes in the form of pain sometimes, but the more we can actually do that, the more we grow, and the more we grow, we will actually grow together as well. So no, it's a beautiful thing. I'm really happy for the both of you. I'm really happy that things have sort of unfolded really nicely for you, and And we'll continue to do so as well. And I think the beauty of it is, as you say, the knowing that no matter what, you're going to be okay. And I think that's just a lovely place. So no, I appreciate your time and your efforts and so forth, and you deserve all the love and happiness that you're getting at the moment.
Thank you. And everyone does here as well.
Yeah.
I full-heartedly believe that.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate everyone's efforts for coming along today, and I think there are some comments, but for some reason I can't see who's written what, and so maybe I'll go through and I'll respond to it. But for anyone of you who are, interested in sort of joining the program or want to learn a little bit more, then I'd love to hop on a call with you. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to my calendar in the comments section below, and you can, just choose a time that works for you. And, if you're serious about this and you're really committed to it, then I encourage you to book in, and we can learn a bit more about where you're at and where you want to get to, and if this program can actually, is the right fit. And if it is the right fit, I'll tell you more about it. If it's not, and I will be absolutely honest with you, if it's not a right fit, then, I don't want to, I guess I don't want a situation where you jump into something that's not going to be the right fit for you, because it doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve, me either, because I want what's best for you, and I think that's the most important part here. So, if it feels right for you, like I say, take the time to book in for a call. Can't wait to speak to you. Appreciate everyone's efforts for jumping on today, and have a wonderful day. All right, you take care, everyone.
Thank you, Sheree.
Thank you, Monique. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.